welcome to our session on mobile and mobile monetization. My name is Mike Boland. I'm an analyst with BI at Kelsey, and I spent a lot of time looking at mobile. And mobile's been a key topic of conversation here today and basically every day. So I always like to say that mobile has equal parts excitement and confusion around it, and I think that's really the core of what some of the opportunities, especially in mobile and local. I mean, that's I guess what we're talking about here today is not just mobile, but the intersection, the unique intersection of mobile and local. And there's a lot of obvious reasons why those two things go hand in hand. And a lot of data we can point to. The kind of mobility of the use case is very conducive to immediacy, and that translates to a lot of local intent. I'll point to one statistic, which Google says that of all their mobile searches, or the search query volume they see happening on mobile devices, 40% of those are local or come with some sort of geographic modifier in the search term. And that compares with about 20% of the desktop, so obviously a lot of opportunity there. And really my point is that since, here we're talking about an industry that has a long-standing positioning and leadership in local media and local advertising, it's obviously a salient opportunity, and obviously one where directory publishers or publishers in general are very well positioned to jump on this opportunity. And one thing that I see happening is that adoption on the part of a lot of publishers is happening a lot faster and a lot more effectively than the transition or adoption over the last decade that we saw from print to digital. Or I should say, it's not a one-to-one thing, it's more of a kind of addition of a new medium to bring into a lot of these media bundles. So that adoption we're seeing now with mobile is happening a lot quicker than we saw with things such as search, for example. And one example, I don't want to steal Chris's thunder here, he's going to go into it, but Supermedia a few weeks ago, their Super Pages app won the Appie. The Appies are basically like the Oscars in the mobile world for the best app in their category. And again, he'll go into kind of some of the best practices of why that is. And so this conversation, and we're going to get to introductions and presentations in a bit, but this conversation really going to happen on two different levels. One being kind of usage, consumer usage behavior, what that tells us about product development and what is resonating among users. And then the second and equally important part of the discussion is how that translates to monetization and advertising dollars. How is mobile selling? What are the price points? Is it bundled? Does it stand alone? And that's really a moving target. We're at early stages here, and each of these guys are really kind of attacking this from different angles. We have two publishers, and then one technology company that's providing a lot of cool tools and local tools for businesses to have mobile presence and start to market that, and so work with publishers to get that going. So a few different kind of interesting perspectives from all different angles. So what we'll do is we'll start with presentations. We're going to hear from each of these individuals individually, and then we'll open it up to a discussion and take some of your questions. So I'll get right into it. We'll start with Chris Folmar from Supermedia, head of mobile development. So please welcome Chris. Thank you.
So everyone talks about going mobile, and what I'd like to talk about is actually getting someone to do that. We're going to take a look at two case studies today, and we're going to talk about how we actually create B2B revenue streams through B2C consumer engagement. And again, my name is Chris, and if you're on Twitter, you can follow me at Boland. So the challenges is first we'll cover, and there are a lot of them developing a realistic mobile strategy. Mobile can be held with everything from a universal bomb to Valhalla. It's not. It's an emerging technology that's changing every day. Long-term and mobile, in my opinion, is the next 6 months. The first case study that we'll go through here today is our own Super Pages mobile platform. The state it was in when I joined the company last year. And then once we started to do some things, we're like, how do we make money at it? So we worked with our national customers to start working on some effective ways to try to take advantage of this case. And then we'll give you some key takeaways that you can use and the first challenge is really about engagement. Value for a client comes from engagement with an individual. Individuals will ascribe value to it because it's a great experience. So you have to understand experience from the beginning. And measuring that experience is important. A lot of times people will apply the same performance measures that we use on desktop and mobile. And those are driven by CPM. We're going to try to increase our page views. We're going to try to increase our time on site because then we can show more ads and we make more money. But mobile is a different beast. People need to get where they want to be within 3 clicks, or else they start abandoning that site in droves, north of 80%. And it needs to happen in less than 90 seconds. And we talked about how much time we spend on Angry Birds earlier. But the average Angry Bird session lasts less than 2 minutes. That's the sheer volume we're talking about there. So valuable, now it's all reward, but everyone's heard about Instagram being sold for $1 billion, the billion, for 100 million users. And they still, as 13 people work at that company, and they haven't figured out how to monetize it yet. But they understand the trajectory of where things are going to be able to share content, share that experience mobile. So what I like to lead now is to talk about what I call how mobile content is differentiated, or really the 3 rules. First of all, you've got to make the mobile content timely. And this can be affected by what day it is, what time it is, what season it is. It's got to be relevant. And relevancy has to do with where you're at, but also what have you done for? What did you look for? What did you click on for? Understanding these 2 dimensions give you a really good way to start to figure out what this person is likely to do, which leads us to our last point, which is actionable. This platform is all about engagement. And nobody looks at something on their mobile phone for the local reviews. If they're not trying to do something with that content, they want to call and talk to you. They want to map to you. They want to nav to you. They want to see what your offers are. They're there for a reason. You've got to give them that. Now, there are some people who don't do this, and I like to walk into a town called fail. If you don't take advantage of the platform, you will be left behind, because people will leave the site and not come back. So in 2010, when I joined the company, we had a little bit of chaos going on. Our site was built on 2004 technology called Lab. When I worked at Nokia, we used to call that, where are the phones, because no one seemed to be shipping it. And then once we shipped the phones, it was now to build content together. They had applications that were really happy to tell me about in the interview process. The applications were built at different times by different vendors. They had different content and completely different user experiences. So now that I'm in business, I want to do this. Why? Because I thought about what local discovery should be, and I use the term local discovery deliberately. Local discovery should be all about finding cool things that are around me now. And I want to engage with them. That can be recommended for me based on my profile. And this is an industry that has a plethora of that data. They just haven't acted on it yet. So these are the first 2 bullet points I put on my first goal sheet I gave to my boss. 1, create a platform that can drive user experience. Sounds pretty straightforward. Second was figure out a way to monetize that didn't cannibalize that traffic. The last thing you want to do is create a nice looking mobile experience and then start slapping ads all over so it looks like a NASCAR vehicle. Nothing wrong with NASCAR. But we're dealing with a small 3-inch to 4-inch screen. There's not a lot of real estate, so you've got to be really savvy about what you do there to create an action. So we work with the product team and my platform team, and we're trying to come up with a way of harmonizing the platform experience and the product experience that can work harmoniously together. So the more we do traffic, the more value we can drive for our clients. So here are the 3 things we did. If you're not doing these right now, I encourage you to. But right now, everybody's website is getting mobile phone traffic. Ours was about 30%. 30% of people who went onto our site were looking on a smartphone. And our friends at Google are sure to tell you, north of 70% of the people who have that experience don't stay, and they don't come back either. So you've got to figure out a way to take advantage of today's devices. We optimized it to be a touchscreen device. We made it where it was easy to use and look great, regardless if you were on a touchscreen BlackBerry, Windows Phone, Apple, or Android. Now, once we got them here, we've taken down the engagement funnel, get them to use our product even more by promoting an application. An application that offers the same content with a much richer UI can take advantage of today's smartphones features such as their voice search, such as nice little touchscreen interfaces, things that you just can't quite do with HTML5 yet. But HTML5 is still the number 1 way. When we launched this site, we did the restructure of all the URLs so that Google could index our mobile site so that when the mobile search is done, Google is able to give the results from the mobile optimized site higher ranking. So we're planning for that. And then again, every time someone comes, ask them to download the app. And did it work? Well, here's what happened. The first thing we did is we overhauled the reporting metrics. So before we could measure the changes, what we realized was there's actually a lot more traffic in the previous mobile platform than we thought. So that gave us a really good sense. Once we launched the mobile website, we were redirecting traffic to an optimized environment. It started growing. In fact, it was growing so much that by the time we got the mobile app, it was like, we got to get this down because we know that we'll have better engagement, we have better click-through of the call to action rates in the applications than we will on mobile sites. So we launched the application and started diverting traffic over into that platform. Again, these KPIs are only on mobile web. You see by the time the fourth quarter hit, so many phones are being activated. So many people are getting into this and doing search in that little search bar on the top of the mobile browser that even though we're promoting an application that everybody who comes to the site, the mobile web is just growing by leaps and bounds. So that was part one, what we wanted to do overhauling our platform. And thank you for recognizing that we were just awarded with the Appy Award. It is an honor to be chosen for that, to be nominated for that. So I thank everybody on my team that helped bring this to fruition because it's a really hard-working team and it's a pleasure to help be a part of that. Then my boss said, "Hey Chris, congratulations." Now what? So now we have to figure out a way to make money out of it. The easy thing to do is to put a banner ad right there. Many people have done this. It's not bad, but this is digital dimes. I'm not talking digital dollars yet. Only 6% of people on our platform click through more results. 6%. Now that is pretty standard for most mobile sites. So being at the top of the search result listing is really imperative. It's super important in a very premium space. So what we did is we created a trial with our national clients to highlight them in specific verticals. We not only ran at the top of search result list, but we also ran the same ad on the free listings that we have throughout our data, and many of the publishers will have throughout theirs. And the results, it was a mixed bag, I'll be honest with you. But we learned from the good and the not so good on what were the things that measured results move the needle for clients, for us, and really for the consumer. But at the top level, 184,000 ads, we've had 2,000 calls, about 1.1% click. Not bad, not great. This is just in line with what display gets. Now, from those calls, conversion to paid calls, 25%. Again, not bad, but not where I hoped it would be. So when the growth results down by the experience, that's when I was able to go into some key insights I'll share with you guys here quickly. The first off is the national account power pest control. 1.6% click-through rate. This was great. There was a good value in the advertisement. There was a discount on there. But look at this, 66% of the people who called stayed on until it was a paid call. Within 30 seconds, that consumer was talking to a representative. That's what people want when they press the call button. They knew there was a value and they quickly got there. When we ran the same type of ad with National Insurance, they just put their brand logo on there. It was a pure brand advertisement. You see the click-through rate is not near as high, and it took over 2 minutes to get through the phone tree to actually speak with the person. So the conversion was much less. And then the example I learned the most from was this special HVAC offer from Megalithic Homes Plus. It was a great value proposition, good click-through rate, but it sounded like I called the local store. Press 1 for lumber, press 2 for electronics. HVAC services wasn't even on the phone tree. It was on the other option, which was number 8. It took over 3 minutes to talk to a person. So during the course of the trial, we went back with our agencies and we're like, we need to make some changes. We've got some examples of what's worked well before, and you can just jump over the phone tree and get right to that person. You're going to get a much better result on this. And they said no. I was stunned. So I said, well, okay, we've got great data. Thank you. We're going to continue our beta with some other partners having some more data. And so we started to pull back, and then they're like, wait. You're saying no to us? Well, maybe we will make some changes. Maybe we'll take some of this, we'll take some advice from you guys. And that started a dialogue in ways that we can improve the advertising for us. You see, not only do we get great call volumes across the entire thing, so the average calls for our sponsors completely exceeded the average calls within that volume, that category. And the click-through rates were fantastic. The key learning for me and for our team really was, conversion really depends on what happens after the consumer leaves our platform. We do a brilliant job of making it where people want to push the call button, and then absolutely fail at the point of really where it matters, where we can convert it to clients. Because if we don't share what matters to a mobile consumer, we don't give them the best practices for that, they're not going to be successful in this product. And that's a key element to this. It's a different medium. It's an action medium. It's something that people have to think about, not only the experience of what it's like where they place the ad and create it, but what's the experience after they push the call button. And please, everybody, remember, it's a phone. These people are calling you from a mobile phone. They've done their research. They already know what they want. They're calling to talk to somebody. Think how long you can be willing to wait on your mobile phone if you're riding, or out and about with family. You're trying to get business done quickly. So when you're getting these programs put together, you can use call tracking numbers for mobile. Identify these are high value calls. These are people who are ready to do business now. So the main thing I want to leave you guys with is, again, focus on the end user. That will give you ROI. And don't just think about it first thing. Start to push a call. Think about it all the way through. Having a site, having an app is great, but it's just step one. You've got to connect the dots between the site that drives traffic to your app, that drives value for the client, so that you can engage the consumer and get to the daily actions you want. And remember, just as you guys you vote with your fingers every time you download an app, average is awful. Great user experience is the killer app. Again, thank you guys for your time today. I'm Chris. Follow me on Twitter at @GlobalFalls. Look forward to talking to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. So before we move to data, a lot of great data and a lot of great case studies. Also, I want to kind of drill down on one point to kind of leave this audience with some takeaways. You talked about the app and the Appy Award. What are some of the attributes you feel like from kind of a product development and interface perspective that has made that app so successful? We talked backstage about how it makes local search fun almost. I mean, the fun aspect. You look at successful local apps like Urban Spoon, and was one of the first ones out of the gate to use that kind of shake, slot machine type interface. It just kind of brings a fun element to it. Or, there's that. What else do you point to as kind of best practices for this audience that you would attribute your success to?
First of all, I think you're right in terms of being able to use some of the device features. You mentioned a couple things about the way you can touch Urban Spoon and you can shake Urban Spoon. Again, you're playing with the touch screen, you're playing with the accelerometer. You can't apply web design methodology and branding to a mobile experience. You've got to think about the medium shape, the fact that you're going from portrait to landscape and back again. So when you're developing your user interface, trying to create a user experience, what you want to kind of think about is like, how do I make it where people really do want to reach out and just touch it and stay connected to it? One of the great studies I read about why smartphones have taken on civil is just the actual kind of the gesture, this haptic technology of touching something in this gentle stroking type motion. It's very similar like how we might handle our pets. And it actually creates the same kind of neurological response in the brain that it does when you're petting your dog. So that's one of the things about these apps, someone uses their phone, they start to freak out. Yeah. They have a strong emotional commitment to it. It's not just it's got pictures of your family and you bang on it. And this is a device that you really do have deep physical contact. It will be right here, it's with you 24 hours a day, charging this, your alarm clock, it's always with you. So I think when you're designing the user interface, you want to think about something that, one, it's got to load fast, because 3G, 4G networks are still not all the cracked up speed. Yeah. But two, you want to take advantage of the fact that people want to touch and they want to interact. They want to kind of feel like they're in Star Trek, so you want to kind of give them that kind of cool, gosh, wow factor. But you can't sacrifice performance when those times to do it. That's where it's part art, it's part science, kind of craft right now. They're trying to figure those things out. And you're right about the personalization. There are a lot of studies out there that are pointing to people who would rather lose their keys in their wallet before their phone. Here, that's statistic a lot. So next we're going to move over to David Kurtz, who's VP of Publisher Products at AT&T Interactive, with some interesting thoughts about what's happening there. So go ahead.
Yeah, so in contrast to Chris, I actually work on our publisher network. So what we're focused on is how do we get local advertising to work not within our own sites, but on other people's sites. So some slightly different observations. I mean, a lot of what Chris said applies to us as well. I think it's important stuff. But what I want to kind of talk about is start by talking about the opportunity, right? Why are we all here? We're actually find ourselves, I think, at a really great moment in time for people to do what we do, because things are coming back around again where our expertise is going to be incredibly valuable in this ecosystem. I'm sure a lot of you have seen some of these slides, but just to highlight, right? The amount of advertising spend currently going on mobile versus the amount of time that people spend on mobile is completely out of whack right now. Which means that there's a lot of money that's going to start moving into mobile and developing mobile into really like a first strategy, a first screen strategy. And especially when we talk about local, that's true. And you see this in the next graph. where no matter what kind of advertising you're talking about on mobile, whether it's local advertising or whether it's national advertising, it's going to be locally focused, right? The split between the amount of money that national brands are going to spend on national buys versus buys with some sort of local component is going to tilt heavily towards local. So there's an enormous amount of opportunity to take advantage of the assets and the relationships that we have to make interesting things happen. But I was actually there kind of as we went from sort of one form of advertising, which is very print-based catalogs and stuff, to the internet. And one of the things I remember, and one of the mistakes I'm trying not to make again as we go through this shift, is just take what I've already got and move it into the next medium, right? We've got to resist the temptation to just take what we've got in internet and move it into mobile, because mobile is very different, right? There's a lot of characteristics about mobile which make it very unique. Always on, always with you, right? I mean, for a local advertiser, this is a huge opportunity. What you're saying, personal device, right? Anybody asks to borrow my phone, I don't care how well I know you, I don't actually do that, right? Or I think twice before I do that. I'm sure we're all very similar, right? It's a very personal device. It's got, my characteristics all over it, and I'm very attached to it. The other thing that I think is really important is to begin to understand the context in which we're using our devices, right? I mean, we all think about the context where we're out and about, in the neighborhood, etc. But, the statistics on the amount of time people spend on their mobile phones when they're watching television, for example, or sitting here listening to someone at a conference, right? There's an enormous amount of time and an enormous amount of context in which we are on our mobile devices. And so hitting people in those contexts is really important, right? In terms of design principles, it's a really small device. You've got to keep that in mind. You've got to have a goal in mind, right? What are you trying to accomplish at this moment? What are you trying to get this user to do in this reachable moment? And once you have that goal in mind, do it and do it really well, right? Focus on it and do it really well. And keep in mind, in this environment, less is more, right? Now, one thing that we looked at really carefully at AT&T Interactive is the correlation between proximity and user engagement with apps. And we found that while proximity in online has a direct correlation with CTR, in mobile it's dramatic, right? If you look at this, in certain categories especially, being close to an advertiser influences how likely you are to click on and interact with that advertiser. So, what I want to kind of tie this all up into is what can you do with all of this knowledge? And this is something that we're actually working on right now as an ad experience that we're going to be pushing out into our publisher network. But if you take all this together, these are the kind of things that you can start to come up with. These are the kind of ideas that we all need to start developing together, is the idea of a store location experience, right? So we're going to be working on this rich media ad experience, which basically directs local consumers to nearby locations. You think about it for national advertisers or even big regional advertisers, but tying together our databases of local advertising, using that for geofencing, using that for creative assets, using that to find the locations which are close by the user, being very mindful of the fact that on a mobile device, the call to action may not always be a phone call. Maybe an advertiser wants to drive directions, clicks to a website. At a certain point, they're probably going to want to start driving actual purchases. But you can begin to tie things together and come up with really unique and really compelling mobile ad experiences, and that's what we're really focused on. So that's why we're here. Thanks very much.
Thanks, David. And you guys also have publisher network, right?
Yeah, and that's where this is going, right? And that's where we're planning on going with this, and that's really what we've been focused on. Is we looked at the mobile market as a way of pushing out our IYP advertisers, and one of the things we was obvious is that Google at the time, this is maybe 2 years ago, controlled about 80% of local search, right? So where do you go? And Google doesn't tell you all
in the browser,
right? So we looked and we said, well, look, there's a big opportunity though, because if you look at in-app, right, there's an enormous number of page views that are dramatically under-monetized and that have location. And if you can take that location and go from that location to a relevant local advertiser, we could probably come up with an ad product that was really valuable to advertisers, really valuable to users, and really valuable to local publishers. And so over the last year, we've built up this ad network that we're doing about 1.6 billion monthly impressions. 100% of them have location, and it's into that network that we're now moving experiences like this, the store location experience that I was showing you, as a way of creating new experiences for advertisers to reach those local consumers.
It makes a lot of sense for the size of the opportunity in-app, and you're dealing with the kind of challenging local, perpetual challenge in local fragmentation, and being able to aggregate that and scale with this type of publisher model. So that's very interesting. So we can go into that a little bit more in the discussion, but right now I want to give Krishna the stage. Krishna Pillai, COO and founder of Convergent Mobile. So please welcome Krishna.
So, brief introduction. Convergent Mobile is a company that focuses on SMS-based mobile marketing solutions and by tying SMS as well as the mobile web and offering a solution to use 411 to small and local businesses. When we talk about monetizing the local mobile ecosystem, we need to look at a couple of things. What are the players, the components of that ecosystem? Obviously, you have the mobile applications, you have the mobile web, and you have SMS marketing. And I'll briefly touch on each one of these and what the monetization opportunities are in each one. Application. Unfortunately, unless you are serving up some sort of a game, it's going to be next to impossible to charge anybody for a mobile app. So the two possible choices you have is a call to action. This could be a pay-per-call, pay-per-click. This is performance-based, or it could be ad-supported. And as David was talking, the ad spending right now is disproportionate based on compared to the amount of time that people spend on the mobile device, but that is shifting as we speak. So while it's a challenge to get revenues from ads, that's going to change as people start putting more and more money into the mobile ads. Mobile commerce is yet another growing trend. So this is the ability for consumers to actually purchase or buy something right from the app. And this is, if studies indicate, going to become more and more popular as the apps become more and more powerful and richer. So our recommendation, if you're looking at mobile apps and how to monetize this, as Chris mentioned, great user experience is very critical, and this is both from the business as well as the publisher side. From the publisher side, the app that you create needs to be user-friendly, needs to provide a very almost exciting experience for the user as an incentive for them to continue to use the app. And from the business standpoint, it needs to be a great user experience in that you don't want the consumer, if it's a pay to call or click to call, you don't want the consumer put on hold for 3 minutes while somebody is before somebody shows up on the other end. Because that's going to immediately drive your consumers away, and once they're gone, they're gone. Efficient call to action and relevance, because the mobile is a very immediate, very personal device. Consumers using this device are looking for something at that very minute. So, and they're looking for something very precise. So if you just serve them pages and pages of content, which they have to browse through and navigate to find what they're looking for, again, you're going to lose them. The mobile web, again, we talked about the mobile web in terms of not just taking what you have on the internet and moving it over to the mobile. Couple of options here in terms of monetization. Obviously, a subscription model. You're seeing quite a bit of that around where businesses are being charged a monthly licensing / subscription fee for either a mobile version of their site or set of mobile pages. All these pages can have ads, so obviously ad-based revenue is another option. The pay-per-click, click to action applies here as well, because once you've got a consumer on your mobile website, on the mobile web page, if there's an actionable link there, that's the option to monetize. Mobile commerce, the same thing. You can, once you have a consumer on that page, they can actually do some transactional aspect. They can buy something, they can pay for it right there and then. So everything is being done from the mobile phone. the three bubbles that you see at the bottom, social, internet, SMS, these are parts of the channels where the mobile web can be packaged and sold in conjunction with. Because what we've seen based on our experience is that trying to sell these things standalone in silos is not the right way to do it. Because the business is looking at all these channels, or in one sense, is oblivious to any of these channels. Because all they're looking for is how do I drive traffic, how do I get new business, new customers, and how do I retain my existing customers. You don't need to worry about where the consumers are coming from because we've got all the channels covered. So mobile web can be integrated with the social, with the internet, and with SMS-based marketing. Which brings me to the last piece. This is a relatively new channel as far as business are concerned. Obviously, consumers have been using this, and if you look at the statistics and basically look at the number of text messages that are sent on a daily basis, this is an extremely popular channel, but businesses are slowly coming around and starting to exploit this channel. A subscription model is a way that you can monetize this channel, and a call to action. A call to action, if it's just a click to call, can be a phone number as part of the text message. But by again integrating your mobile web pages and mobile internet into this, you can obviously have more richer, more powerful calls to action, including mobile commerce. Some of the recommendations here, again, don't sell these things as standalone solutions because there's all these things go together. SMS goes with all those applications areas that you see at the bottom: social, internet, print, TV. You could have a mention, a line in your print ad that says, hey, text this keyword to this shortcut. And again, because this is something that that businesses need to build an opt-in database that they can start reaching out to. It takes a little bit of time, so there are two options available in terms of contract times. You can offer it as a test-based approach, where business says, okay, I'm going to try this out for 3 to 6 months and see how it works. But we recommend that it's at least 12 months, especially if it's tied into the print, because once it's out there, it's going to be there for at least 10 months, and you need to be able to support it. Lastly, what are some of the challenges that you're going to run into when you're trying to monetize? Pricing model is one of the main challenges that we see. Again, if these things are all sold independently and individually, the price tends to go up. A small business, which is very price sensitive, is going to be very wary of adopting all these things at the same time. So again, putting them together, selling them as a cross-channel solution is going to lend itself to more adoptability. And consumer awareness, especially if you're dealing with apps, the thing is, how easy are your apps to be discovered? Do your consumers know about these apps? And how are they going to find this among the 20,000, 50,000 apps that are already out there? And once they do find it, obviously the user experience needs to be really rich and great. And the mobile ad spending that David was talking about, while it's not there today, it's changing, and it's changing in favor. In that more and more companies are going to be starting to look at their mobile spend, and it's going to be increasing as we speak. So ad-based monetization is definitely an option as you move along. That's it.
Thanks, Krishna. Very good thoughts about sellable how it's packaged, which I actually want to get into that with the whole panel and invite everyone to jump in a minute. But first, a question for you. You talked about a lot of calls to action that are introduced into mobile for all the behavioral reasons we've been going over this entire session. Are you seeing anything from your products in terms of performance indicators that represent any kind of takeaways or tactics for this audience about certain calls to action or certain categories or anything like that that results in just kind of higher rates of calls, higher rates of clicks? Anything you're seeing from what you're building?
One of the things that we are seeing very, very predominantly is whenever there is an offer or a deal or a promotion of some sort, and you have a like call to action that is tied into a promotion. Where the consumer feels that they are getting a tremendous value, and they can see that, it's very clear. You see tremendous click-through rates.
Something very tangible. That gets back to Nick's points earlier about the kind of macroeconomic factors and just the general growth of the deal space. So I want to switch over. I think there's a lot of good talk about, from a product perspective and user behavior and how mobile is different. Obviously, you don't want to take your desktop site and put it on mobile. Lots of good takeaways there. Move that discussion, how that translates over into the monetization discussion, the monetization opportunity. It seems to me that I likened it to search earlier. Search is something that over the last decade has seen a lot of consternation around high churn rates, and the concept of buying a click for a lot of small businesses is kind of maybe an abstract notion. Whereas mobile, it seems the opportunities to drive things that are a lot more tangible to the average SMB and aligned with their goals. Phone calls, you mentioned a lot about phone calls, Chris, and some of the metrics you're seeing there. Even things that are more actionable when we get into transactions and things like that, and foot traffic. So I guess my question is, what's the opportunity with mobile with respect to going deeper than the directory publishing industry has traditionally gone within existing categories, or even broadening to new categories that are more conducive to this mobile immediacy or local intent? I mean, how does that behavior, that activity, and what you guys are building translate over into kind of broadening the addressable market? Any thoughts there?
So, I think as Chris has said, that there's an immediacy to mobile, right? I think I saw Google talking somewhere, and they said that the shelf life on a mobile search is about 30 minutes between the search and the action, whereas it's about a week online, right? So it's not researching type behavior, it's immediate type behavior.
Lean forward.
Right, and so I think thinking in terms of mobile and thinking in terms of, one of the things that's got to grow up in mobile, I think especially for local, is better ad effectiveness measures. Measured ad effectiveness measures which are mobile specific.
CPA type of stuff as opposed
CPA, yeah, but I also think just even secondary measures that you look at, maybe you don't pay on them, you still look at them to drive the overall ROI conversation. And I think you've hit on a lot of them, right? Feed in stores, I think, is a major thing that we need to sort of get focused on and work out. And then transactions, right? As mobile payments goes up, I think transactions are going to become a really fertile ground. I mean, personally, I think eventually CTR and mobile is going to start to stand for cash to register instead of click-through rate, right? Because at the end of the day, if I can say that I made, more than I spent on my advertising becomes a very easy conversation.
But the challenge in getting there, I think, is that we're not inventing new metrics, but talking advertisers, weaning them off their kind of comfort blanket of a CTR or a CPM, even though these other things might be more tangible. It's still kind of a learning curve process. Chris, you're going to say something?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you're a concept of even stores, and we'll just add on to that, make it like phones and faces. So when you talk about the call to action, I mean, remember we got about 50 characters on the typical banner display we have to work with there. So it really is a strong buy now, and you have to offer a compelling reason to do that. But when you take the idea of phones and faces, what you're able to do with mobile, which you can't really do with a lot of the other platforms, is actually bring the medium that delivered the lead with the lead to the cash register, right? And that kind of convergence right there is just unheard of.
Yeah.
And so the ability then to act on that and bridge that, a lot of the categories, the traditional verticals that I see in this industry, there's a frequency of buying that's based on sometimes months, sometimes years. There's a lot of categories that other people would love to break into. The frequency of purchase is far higher. Moving into retail, moving into food, coffee, things like that. And that's where I think there's an opportunity to kind of leverage sort of the local it may not be the traditional YP or IYP purchase. And that platform brings a unique, kind of that unique conversion of all those things together. So that's what I think is the most exciting. You're absolutely right, that's what cost activation.
Yeah, just to pivot off that a little bit, I think that to your point about it's the first device that comes to the store with you, brings up an interesting opportunity in terms of CRM, right? And so this is why we can move away from like things which people transact twice a year and trying to be researchy to the more immediate, more frequent purchase thing. Because you can bring somebody into the store, get them to transact, and then you can reach out to them later, right? And if you go from there to building up like customer relationship databases for our local advertisers.
And I'd like to find the relevancy aspect of this, because again, when somebody is using the mobile device, searching for something, they get some basic information, hopefully they need a little bit more, and so if you can provide very targeted, very relevant content, and obviously not pages of it, just specifically what they're looking for, and that leads them into a transaction at the end of it. I think.
So we're almost out of time, but one last question, because I want to riff on something you said, David, about retail, what you guys are both saying about increasing the frequency of the purchase. What about other data sets that are out there that really kind of enhance what we're doing here or allow better targeting and also meet the user's needs? And I'm thinking of, when you said retail, things such as inventory feeds, real-time inventory, bringing that shopping aspect and the payments, or even social layers. What do you guys all think about it in kind of maybe a crystal ball or even what's in the immediate future in terms of other data sets, social, retail?
I think there's a clear reason why eBay bought Milo and Red Laser, and that their investors just increased their stock valuation because of what their investment PayPal spent. I mean, understanding is really that. What's around you, and go back to kind of 3 rules of content. It's kind of like, it's relevancy. I'm looking for X. Well, I can be alerted when X is down the street at this price, or a little bit further for another price. Or yet, I can go ahead and just buy it now and pick it up. I mean, that
brings transparency.
Yeah, and the social aspect, like, okay, here are 5 friends of yours who bought it.
Right. Yeah. And I can tell the 300 people on my social graph what I just did and how I did it. And with a quick little share, I think that it's another whole conversation when we talk about what social means for mobile, the ability to share a good experience, social share an ad. I mean, that's really powerful. Absolutely.
The thing I would add to that is, we've sort of grown up around the idea that context is what's on the page that you're looking at, but with mobile, context becomes what's in your physical context, right? Where are you? What's the characteristics of the place you're at? What's the weather of the place you're at? What events are going on nearby the place you're at? I mean, if you think about it,
How fast am I moving? Am I in my car or am I walking?
Exactly. I mean, all that can alter what type of ad we show you, right? And what types of ads that are going to be relevant to users at that time, what kind of ads are going to perform. So this is something we're very focused on, is how do you go from a location to a targeting idea that allows you to pick a better advertisement to send out. And I think there's a lot of fertile ground here as well.
Okay, well, we are out of time, unfortunately. We could keep talking all day. There's a lot of kind of sales issues and other things that we didn't get to, but will you guys be around for the rest of the conference for any questions that these?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, please join me in thanking the panel.